Hello, my friends. Hello, my life warriors, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Day In, Day Out podcast. Woo! Today on episode 166, I was very privileged to have Justin Connor on the show today. He is a writer, director, musician, producer, and he has an award-winning film called The Golden Age. We talked about his film, how he came up with the concept, how long it took him, a 15-year journey to say the least, and yeah, how he uses music to bring his film to life. Have to say, very nice conversation. Look forward to talking about his future book in a future episode. And yeah, good times ahoy. So please sit back, enjoy the show. And yeah, don't forget, subscribe. It really helps the show. And yeah, thank you very much. Peace. Haha. Hello, my friends. Hello, my life warriors, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Day In, Day Out podcast. Woo! Today on episode 166, I am very privileged to have Justin Connor on. This guy. He is an actor, writer, director, musician. He is a producer, and yes, he has an award-winning feature film out on Amazon called The Golden Age. Well, let's just say the only thing I don't think he did on that film was sweep the floors as he went from set to set. But hey, how are you today, Justin?
How you doing, sir? Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you here. My God. Look, doing a feature film is a hefty task in itself. And like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Acting in the feature film, that's a demanding job. Directing a feature film, that's a demanding job. Like producing a feature film, that's a demanding job. Doing the music for a feature film, that's a demanding job. Uh,
Yeah.
like, have you ever looked at the word? What's it called? What's it called? Teamwork.
Well, I think a lot of independent films, they have a lot of people wearing those different hats. And
Yeah.
for me, I worked as an actor for a lot of years. And what I found was that people were sometimes, even though there were a number of people doing the jobs, all that really mattered at the end of the day was if the people who are acting in front of the camera, what you're trying to convey isn't caught with a sincerity or like, something magical got caught and we move on to another scene or another part of the story.
Mm.
I think it would sometimes lose the morale of the other people because it'd be like, oh, we're moving on from that. I don't think we got it, like really got it. So there was an element of wanting to wear a lot of these hats, not to like do everything per se, but because I had witnessed sometimes that we would move on from a scene because we had to, but we really couldn't move on from a scene because if that scene wasn't nailed, it wouldn't have brought the film together. So I wanted to make sure I kind of wore a lot of hats only because I love film so much and I don't want to waste an audience's time. So I wanted to make sure that I signed off on it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Like when you are so sort of deeply involved in a film like this, and you mentioned like, yeah, moving on from like really trying to capture that moment. Um, can you say you sometimes suffered for like basically you couldn't see the woods because you were so into the trees, if you get what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there were times like that, and it was hard to direct myself because it was actually the first time I directed a project. So you know, I had to really like have that wherewithal to know what I wanted as the director, and
Mm,
also know in the moment, did I get that or did I not? I think I can do that better or that line. And it was also hard because when you stop and you cut, I had to remember things that I wanted to say to the other person, the other actor or something, or you're directing it, but you're also trying to direct yourself. So it was challenging, but I really like it because
mm,
I like wearing a lot of hats. I think
yeah.
sometimes when you're just doing one role or like one department or directing or doing this or whatever, sometimes for me, like when I was on set as an actor a lot, it was kind of boring, not boring, but it was like you're in your trailer a lot and it's like,
Mm.
and so it's fun, but I always like, I don't know, I like doing, I like doing many things, it's fun.
Yeah, no, I can imagine where being an actor, if when you're just an actor on a feature, yes, there is a lot of downtime. One of the actors, you Indy's best friend in Indiana Jones, Welshman. I can't remember the character's name, but big burly lad, like man with the hat, the little fez hat.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he like when he was on set, he used to learn a new skill for each and every film. So he
That's
learned how to
smart.
juggle, he learned how to do like I think he learned how to no, I was gonna say crochet, but he made it his mission to learn a new skill.
I
And
love that.
yeah, but like yeah, with yourself, you just went, hey, you know what? I'm sitting here bored. I think I can do that. I think I can direct. So
Yeah.
so how did you like how did you get into the whole sort of concept of getting the golden age up and running? Because when did you start it? Was it 2019, 2018 or long?
Oh no, it was much earlier than that. I started writing it in like the mid 2000s as a script, and
Oh,
then started working on an album with it. And I thought maybe there was a way to do an album and a feature film together, but make sure I didn't lip sync it because I wanted to like have the music kind of tell a story in the film.
ah,
So I wrote the script with the album while I was tracking it, and that whole process took about honestly about 2 or 3 years because I had to have the script like kind of A to Z done, but I also had to make sure that the songs were written out and fit accordingly before I even started to press, record on the camera yet, or like starting to arrange it. And then I started casting it and getting ready and just did it in little pieces while I tried to shoot as chronologically as possible because there's an element in the film for those who haven't seen it and might see it. It's semi, it's like a narrative, but it's also a documentary and it's also kind of a farcical mockumentary, but it's all played straight. So it was very important that I shoot it in a chronological way in which
hmm.
it spoke like a truth to it, but also wanted to take my time with it. Like I said, to not move on from anything that I didn't think was, I wanted to make sure it was done. It was done well. I sold it.
Yeah, no, because I can imagine like coming up with a script is one thing, but when you're trying to like basically do an album with that as well,
Mm,
you I can only imagine that when like the album would affect the script and the script would affect the album. So like trying to get like a sort of truth, like the truth
yeah.
out of both of it must be in a very difficult thing.
It was. It was also like, if you think about it, this is kind of nuts and bolts about it, but I had to track the songs enough, excuse me, as like I had to know like how they were, what tempo they were in, where are we starting. I had to know the A to Z of them
Mm,
because there were times in the film I would just sing on top of them, then I would re-record the entire tune, but I had to know the structure of the tune, the beats per tempo of the tune, because like as a click track almost, because I had to go and re-record parts for the film, or I had to redo the whole thing for the film. So it was like I had to do the album almost before the film, if that makes sense.
yeah.
So it was almost like, yeah, I was like writing the blueprint for the film, but I had to make sure that the songs are at least blueprinted enough, if not completely done, and then
Mm.
go in and re-record them live. So it was almost like I had to do it backwards. And I don't really know how else I would have done it if I didn't do that way, because if I just like, I could have like filmed recording the tunes, but that would have been kind of like a very dark and very long-winded, but it was like I more needed to have like the puzzle pieces kind of set before I went to battle, so to speak.
Yeah, because I've watched the trailer of the film, and it's not one of those things where it's like, musicals where it's like, okay, we're acting, 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 musical
Sure.
key, and then we're back to acting, 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 and go off.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it's like because I'm going to watch the whole film at some point, but the whole thing is, did you try to do a sort of continuous beat, like rhythm all the way through the film? So you'll be like, yeah, boom, 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 boom. And then you sort of like go into music, like the actual sort of recording of the music scene, or when like he's in the recording booth and like hit the music that way? Or was it just sort of like, yes, it just kicked off?
I don't know. I mean, it was more like. Did you watch the film or you didn't get to see it?
I did not get to see the film. I've only watched
Um.
the trailer, sadly.
Oh. Well, it's. I think if you see the film, it's a little different. I don't know. The songs emanate organically from the path of this musician. So some of it's real and some of it's live and some of it's, you know, like I would set up different cameras like you asked in a recording booth, and yeah, and I would just set them up and I would do like 3 to 5 to 7 takes, whatever it took until I felt kind of in the zone of it. And that's what happened, and then I tried to get the best take within that. And then once I would nail the takes of the angles that I wanted, I would pop out for like a wide shot or, some inserts. But, I don't know. I just tried to like lock in on what I knew the shots I needed. And then I would play around at the end. And sometimes I would warm up with like wide shots just to get my voice going. Just so I had a wide shot, but other times it was like, I'm ready to just go. So I'd start with the mediums and the close-ups or whatever. So it kind of varied according to like how I felt for the day, but I tried to, it was basically like trying to film one, like each, when I would go for a shoot day, it would be like, we got to nail this too. So I shot so many days, to be honest with you, but I shot it all over a long period of time chronologically. And it kind of, I don't think this is how most people make films, to be honest with you. On films that I've done before, it's like in a 2 or 3 week shoot, or on bigger films, it's like a 6 week shoot. But there's like it's kind of to a script, and they have their shot list, etc. Mine was like I had shot lists, I knew what I wanted to get, but it was such a unique film that I kind of shot probably more days than most, and for much longer in years than most. It probably took like 5 years total, but I knew I wanted to capture something unique, so. That's what I did.
Yeah. 5 years in total. Wow. Like,
yeah.
Like, let me see. You're kind of bordering on, I cannot remember the name of the film, but where they like filmed a family from, like, they did the film every single year chronologically for about 16 years, which was a big sort of awards hit about 5 years ago, maybe a little bit longer. But
Boyhood.
Boyhood. Yes. There you go.
Right.
Yeah. You're bordering on that, my friend, bordering on that. So like, yeah, 5 years, like, was that just you, or was that a whole member, like a whole band, a happy band, a cast with you, like trying to get this down as well over those 5 years?
Well, it was mostly like a singer-songwriter, and so it wasn't as much about a band. There were some band members in it, but yeah, I just kind of did it piece by piece. And yeah, pretty much.
Got to say, like, when you were doing this film, like, was there a point where you were like, okay, what have I decided to take on? Like, this is a bit of an Everest like quest to get.
Very much so. Very much so. It was such a daunting experience. You can't really explain to people what making a feature film is, whether you have all the money in the world, whether it's a big Hollywood production or it's an independent film. Like it's like going to war with your soul. And you try to get as many people and you try to prepare as much as you can, but you're never prepared, but you do what you can do. And it's hard to explain. It's an inexact science, and all that really matters at the end of the day is whether you get the goods in that camera on those hard drives, or it used to be get it in the can, like for film, but so many people aren't shooting film anymore. But you want to capture something that's so unique, so you do whatever you have to do to get that, outside of driving people crazy or something. But I mean, like, all that really matters at the end of the day is if you've got the goods. And you captured it. And it's hard to find. Everyone's got a different unique process, even though there's a very standard business-like way in which it's done in Hollywood. Some of the most unique films and the unique filmmakers that I've seen or that move me, they have they do it the way that works best for them.
Like this is the thing. Like, like it's a very interesting thing you said there. Going to war with your soul. Like, why? Like, what sort of led you to this sort of okay, a battle of the soul? Was it a case of you needed a new direction, or you just were like, okay, I just need to do this project?
Mm. It was kind of a something that I needed to do. I grew up in a kind of ups and up and down dysfunctional household. My father was challenging guy to be raised around, so it was like there were some themes from my past I wanted to address,
Mm.
and I used this character in the film to kind of look at some of my own past as a way to move forward in the future, and that's what the film's kind of about. It's about this fictitious character Maya O'Malley who has to confront his abusive past, and then he makes room for moving on his devotional path through singing songs about letting go of that old trauma in his life, and that was very reflective of my own.
Mm.
So I really wanted to you know I really wanted to cleanse my own palate, as well as take an offer to those that have been through surviving their own craziness in life to heal them. So that's kind of where it all emanated from. I was an actor for years. It was nice and I miss it. And I guess if I had a career just like doing that exclusively, that would be fine. And I'm sure I'd be happy. But
Mm.
um, I'm glad it didn't work out, or it didn't work out enough for me to like make my own film, because this project kind of saved my life, even though it almost killed me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like this is the thing when, like, how can I say, when someone is cleansing their soul or purging, like basically sort of ghosts of the past or like basically places of the past, it is always, especially if you're doing it in the like some type of creative medium, you can like if you can sometimes get caught up and get taken back there. So it's got to be very careful about how you do it. And like, yeah, going forward, trying to get that out, it's some like I think it sometimes leads to a lot of reflection of where you are currently, and how far you've gone. Like sometimes there are some things you kind of look at and go, yeah, have I gone as far as I could, or am I doing what I really want to? And
Mm.
I would simply say, yeah, if you can go yes to most of those things and no to a few of those things, you're heading in the right direction. How was it for
Yeah,
you?
yeah, I think there's an element of that. Like, I think we're all kind of confronted with this. Maybe in terms of being locked down for a year and a half, there's been
Yeah.
like kind of a recalibrating of what's important, and I think this film was kind of a metaphor for like taking that recalibration with myself, in the sense of I think it's very easy in our culture to get caught up in this idea of living according to what we think is success, or what will make us happy, or what will make other people look at us in a successful light, versus like, what do I really want to do that like feeds my soul, even if it like ruins me, even if it's hard, even if I do it and I realize I don't want to do it, at least I did it. And I
Mm.
think there's an I'm not even sure I'll make another film again. I probably will, but it's so much work. But I knew I needed to make this project because I knew it was kind of life or death for me. And it doesn't matter what medium it is, like whether it's music or film or something else. It was more about, I really took on something that I don't think many people do. And I'm not trying to like champion myself for it, but it was like, it's good to really like take one for the team, or really go deep into something that's uncomfortable,
Mm.
knowing that you're going to come out the other side cleaner, even though it's really hard to have the guts to do that, because not many people are, versus making something like a more traditional narrative or romantic comedy or something a little safer. I kind of like really put myself out there with this one, but I'm glad I did it, just because it was almost like a thesis for my life to release myself of some pains, and has in turn, I think, healed some others that have been through the same. So that's what I think is the best caveat of the whole thing.
Yeah, like this is the thing. I like what I would simply say is like with that, when you go, yeah, um, and with what you're doing, it's like you're seeking out discomfort. And I think with regards to when you do seek out discomfort, that's where your growth always happens for anyone. And more times than not,
Sure.
people just like I would say you could say in the Western world, you can say in this like 21st century, discomfort is something which is not sought out by the vast majority. It is like, yes, I'm at home, I can watch TV, I can do this, that, the other, but challenges, not really there so much. Like for the last sort of 15 months, there has been kind of a challenge, but people have adjusted and then not so much embracing that sort of change or opportunity for personal growth in some regards.
Yeah, I think pain is a great teacher. I think in our culture we're taught to kind of run away from it, but
Mm.
we certainly don't want to wallow in it forever. But it's inescapable, and I think that it's important to see that those are where we grow and expand the most, even though it's painful. And I think there's an element of sometimes storytelling, whether it's films or songs or art in general or just
Mm.
life in general, as we try to put a pretty spin on it. And oftentimes it's not pretty. And I think it's good to get in the guts of it sometimes. And maybe I did it for a little longer than I wanted to, but I knew I needed to like heal this wound. But I think the, pain in and of itself is, a great barometer for expansion and enlightenment if we can look at it differently. But we're living in a culture that it's always predicated on wanting to enjoy more, but there's really no enjoyment in this material world, and when it is, it's very temporary. So I tried to have a different lens with it in terms of let's get real, down and dirty and gangster with this stuff from my past, and like and then and as a reflective view to see what audience members are willing to do the same with their own lives, like
Mm.
how, because we've all been through our wounds and we're all suffering. We're all in this prison. We're all, slaves to this material life where we're always suffering and we're always going through this impermanence with our bodies, with our desires, with all of it. So it was important for me to really take a look at, a peek behind this material mirage and try to, expand on the devotional path in the film, which I did, to try to look at a way of healing from trauma, not just in terms of therapy and conversations, which is great, and insight and introspection, but to look at the devotional path and try to commune with like a higher power as a way to absolve and create like the solve for these painful traumatic experiences that we all go through.
Mm. Yeah, like you've spoken about how it's like you've gone through like a valley of pain, say, and like you're like basically this film has helped confront you, help confront some of that pain and issues which have gone on. Would you say the whole sort of film experience, like the writing, the filming, and now basically the promotion of this has helped to, how can I say, free you a little bit more than you were before?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, definitely. It's funny, like we're not aware to the extent that these wounds or these things that we have had to walk through, these fires we've had to walk through, we're not aware of their potency and their hold on us until we confront them in a way that's uncomfortable.
Mm.
So I really like had to walk through the not knowing if I was going to heal entirely, but figuring I would be better off than not by doing it. But what I didn't take into consideration was how long it would all take. I've been working on this for a long time, like from beginning to end, almost like 15 years, really.
Mm.
And was it worth it? It's like, it definitely was. It definitely was. And it like was like kind of my PhD in life, or in terms of healing from trauma, as well as, celebrating music and acting, which I love, and going to India and going on this devotional path and all these different things. So, I wanted to make sure it was a hybrid of all these things, but it's definitely worth it now. I think what I've been dealing with lately, and I'm finishing a book that's attached to the film. It's going to be out this fall, called A Day in the Lies, that kind of fills in the blank to the film. But what's been happening for me lately is I've been going for so many years, even more than just making this film. And I think when you go through some of these wounds as a child, you figure out your coping mechanism. And for me, it was like workaholism and perfectionism, which
Yes.
helps suit me as an artist, but at the same time can not allow or foster that kind of balance that we all deserve and need in our lives. So I've kind of like hit a screeching, standstill in the last like few months or so, just because I've been going. And now that this is like slowing down a little bit, or I'm doing the promotion phase and working on the book, there's still stuff going, but it's not nearly how I've been going, not just throughout making this film, but how I've been going since I was a child. So
Mm.
it's like I'm now like I feel like I'm starting all over a little bit. So if the film allowed me to do that and start all over and like really have a nice cleansing and like rebalance me in a way that I needed to, then it was all worth it.
Yeah, no, it sounds great, and like you know what I mean. Hopefully, it has, because I sometimes when I sometimes look at myself, and I would say other people's lives as well, it's not the moments where you're on the rush, when you're in like doing the grind, where like you find the truth. It's when you have that sort of still, those moments of quiet,
Mm,
and that's where you that self-reflection kicks in, and that's when the moment of truth, wherever that might be, comes to you, whispers in your ear, hopefully something pleasant and not something horrific, you know.
sure. No, that's a good point, and I didn't think about that. And I think that's what I've been doing. That stillness is confronting because it's like you're morphing into a new being that you weren't ever once before by the way of that stillness and that fire you walked through. Now that you've passed it and are taking inventory, but that's challenging now. So I'm like, I'm just I feel like I'm starting all over again. But it's beautiful. It's just like it feels like shedding old skin and like putting on some new boots or something.
Hey, look, it's been a 15-year journey for you, personal growth, and like, look,
Mm,
here's the thing, like when anyone starts a journey like this, especially when you're not exactly sure how long that journey is going to be, or what the final
mm.
destination is, or you had an idea of how long that journey was going to be, and life went, you've got a lot more work to do. It's
Right.
like sucker punch, or as they go in the Karate Kid, sweep the leg, as life often does in many
Yeah.
ways. Yeah, you like go, okay, right. Uh, Through that journey, that crucible, come on, like you know what I mean. You are going to be.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, it's funny, like, for those who haven't seen it out there, you know, one of my friends told me, like, when I was releasing it, I was like, yeah, I'm really proud of this film because I put everything into it. And I'm really like a demon in the editing room. I want to make sure this was perfect.
Mm,
And, it's hard to get like a film, or whether it's Hollywood or an independent thing like mine, out there to the masses. But I stand behind this thing for any of your listeners who want to check it out. It's the real deal. But more, I told my friends after I finished, I'm like, yeah, I'm proud of this. They're like, well, be careful of pride. Pride is like ego. I'm like, no, 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 you're right, you're right. I'm very pleased with how this turns out. She's like, yes. But when you were talking about Boyhood earlier, this thing that was shot over years, it was a very sweet story. And these parents and this kid, and you watch them grow up, and it's cool. And he did a great job with it, Richard Linklater. And it's like, so you're following and tracking this kid growing up, but it's still done in like this narrative context.
mm.
And why I say I really vouch for this film is it's done in a way that most people aren't used to seeing films. It's sort of a documentary, but it's sort of a narrative. You're not really sure what's real and fake. I'm not even sure, having worked on it all this year, what's real and fake, even though I know exactly what is, because there's like this element between director wanting to show you something in a narrative context in the way we're normally supposed to see it. And then there's a documentary format that's very real, and it's talking heads and stock footage and this. And then there's these musicals where everyone's dancing around. And then there's a different kind of musical that I made where it's like more towards documentary. So there's like this space in the middle that like greets narrative and documentary and realism and images and music and song. So it's like, I don't know. The reason I think I stand behind the Golden Age the most is it's very unique to itself. Like there's a lot of people who see it like, I've never seen anything like this.
Mm.
And then they think the lead character is, I don't even want to get into it, but the lead characters, they start Googling him. They're like, who is this guy? I haven't heard of him. So it's like, I think the whole thing is like a satire on fame, but not to be like comedic or lighthearted about being satirical in like a haha funny way, but just more like a mirage for how everything we see is kind of an exaggeration of the truth.
Mm.
And this is kind of like a satire on our longings to wanting to be famous or people be known, or the plight of a musician, how they get famous and then they get into drugs, then they get dropped from their label. It's like, so there's like this whole element of satirizing the madness of material life. So I think people might have a gas at it who can see or read between the lines, you know.
Like, this is the thing, I would say it's very sort of relevant in this sort of like YouTube, TikTok age where, like, okay, self-promotion, the power behind that, you can get people which are like, yeah, I've got 10 followers, and then you've got people who've got followers like, yeah, that's the
Yeah.
size of quite a lot of countries right there who know who you are, follow you, but when it comes to the greater population, have no idea who you are whatsoever, which is
Yeah.
kind of like trippy.
Yeah, we're in a weird state with that. So many people are entrenched in their phones wanting to be famous, and I think it's great, or go do your thing. But you know, there's a lot of these people that I don't know what they do, but they have millions of followers, and then there's people like myself who can't stand social media that, you know, could probably use doing some of that. And every time I open those apps, I'm just like, this is insane. So you know, it's like, it's a conundrum. I think I'm playing kind of the long game with it all and just trying to build a steady body of work. But yeah, I think that this age, we're kind of in the age of distraction. So I think I was just trying to have a laugh at some of it throughout the golden age, and because life goes by quick, and we don't know when our time is going to end or when our number is going to get called. So it's good to make good use of our time.
Yeah, no, very true. And look, basically, with regards to getting your like time being called and everything like that, like 2020 should have been like that sort of, how can I say, ringing bell to like go, hey, look, life is fleeting, make the most of it.
Mm.
But with all things, it seems like, okay, when, I don't know how it is for you when, like, if you know a friend or a family member which is passed, and it's like, okay, you go, okay, I need to live life a little bit more and do what I want to do. A few weeks go by, you're like, I'm still committed to it. A few months go by, a year goes by, you look around, you're kind of still doing the same thing, which I think many people kind of fall into when it comes
Yeah, sure.
to life. And with regards to sort of like gay, the big pandemic of 2020 slash 2021, people have kind of like, okay, I just want to get back to doing what I was doing and living my life the way I live my life, which you can't blame them. But it's like, I sometimes think the lesson's been missed.
Yeah, yeah. I think they're trying to get back to something that was an illusion to start with. It's almost like this whole break was a really welcome opportunity to see how farcical our lives were before that. I don't mean individual, but like almost just culturally, you know, it's like there's an opportunity. It seems like there's one demographic that's rushing to get back to enjoying material life the way it once was.
Hmm.
And the other part is like, were we really enjoying that? And maybe this is a time to like shift gears and like go deeper in a different context, or maybe those relationships weren't what I thought they were. Maybe this is time to do that move out to the country like we always said we wanted, or whatever it is, you know. Like, it's funny, it's like these two different camps that are forming post-pandemic a little bit, about, you know, those that want to hold on to what was and try to recapture it now, that, or those that are like, let's go, let's see if there's something else that's new, you know.
And I think the ramifications from this Black Swan event are still yet to come. And with regards to some people moving and changing and stuff like this, I think there'll be some people which will change their careers and move. But I think there's as I said before, a large majority which will miss this lesson, but we shall see.
Right. What Black Swan event though? You mean the pandemic itself?
The pandemic itself, like, it's
Yeah.
like, I look at that, it's like, right, yes, it's a Black Swan event, but like generally it's not when it happens, it's always the sort of ripples from that point going
Sure.
on. That's when you sort of really see the change, and like you see that, like, things, how like they go from one way to another. For example, if you go back to like 2001, 9/11, you're just like, the world was one way, and then that event happened, and it was like, yeah, it changed so quickly in a period of 12 months. And so, okay, Patriot Act over in the States, over
Sure.
here in the UK, new rules and laws brought in. Like, yeah, they called it a Snoopers Charter over here, but bit by bit, day by day, it changed. And
Sure.
you see how things affected from there.
Yeah, yeah, I know. These black swan events, it's hard to infer
Mm.
so much from them, but yeah, I think we're kind of entering an era and age where we're a little more awake to what is transpiring, evolving, and devolving, and trying to stay steady and sane amidst the madness of it all. And that's no easy task, but I'm really, I'm really excited to see what comes next. Even, but I'm not really holding on to this idea of getting back to where things once were. If anything, I'm moving in a complete different direction. Doing a lot of painting these days, kind of thinking about moving out to the country myself, or just having a little bit more of a slice of life, and then maybe working on another film there or something. I don't really know, but I think there's an element of wanting to slow down a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
than the idea of wanting to recapture or go back into the way life once was prior to this. It's almost like that part of me and that part of culture is gone. So I'm not trying to conjure up staying attached to some idea of something that quite viscerally doesn't seem like it is there now and perhaps wasn't ever there.
Yeah.
You know?
It seems like you're trying your next quest after this is to like find that happy place, that equilibrium
Yeah, it's a
place
sweet
for
spot.
yourself. And
Yeah.
and I would say with regards to a lot of people, well, like looking at the internet, a lot of people are leaving California
Mm.
in droves, and like basically LA. With regards to getting across, like LA is somewhat akin to a nightmare if you're like driving one place to the other.
It
Uh,
is.
yeah, playing that game for how long have you been an LA resident for?
Yeah, like 20 years plus. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go tomorrow. So yeah, I'm already planning that. I think a lot of people are.
Mm,
And I think the entertainment industry is dying a little bit too, even though it's thriving in terms of Netflix and all that. And these TV shows, I don't think they're making the same films they used to. I think a lot of people are starting to realize the writing's on the wall, and it's been like that for a lot of years.
mm,
Not to mention, I think the culture's just moving so fast. I don't think people sit down and watch films the same way. So on some level, I made this film because it's really my love letter to all the filmmakers who inspired me so deeply. But I'm also releasing it in a day and age where I think people's attention span is so moot. But that's not going to deter me from making more or making another one or something. Who knows? But the bottom line is, I think this Black Swan event or this pandemic or whatever it was meant to be, yeah, it's forcing people definitely in California, definitely in Los Angeles, I think, to rethink, what is all this, or is this worth, is the juice worth the squeeze of living here? Like, so I think we're all going through that, but especially in this state and especially in the city. But I think, in New York and this different people, and I'm sure over in the UK, like there's a lot of people that are just kind of re-examining their lives rightfully. And I think that's a good thing to do. And I think that's the biggest benefit of this whole situation over the last year.
yeah, yeah. But like with regards to the sort of realm of the movie industry, well, entertainment industry as a whole, with regards to the sort of shifting change which has come in with regards to Netflix, Amazon, Disney Plus, uh, Peacock. That's a joke. That's like I would simply say it's like
Right.
this, where like it's no longer about doing the film, it's just about keeping you on the platform as long as possible,
Yeah.
because when you hear about some of the money they spend on just an individual TV episode, like, yeah, 5 million to like 12 million, and like sometimes even more, just to like keep you hooked into a 10 episode season. It's not about like you can make 10 films easily, maybe even twice as much as that on the budgets they give out,
Yeah.
and like like kickstart that sort of small to medium sized budget film market and like have that thriving. But they don't want to do that. It's just let me keep you engaged, let me keep you on your device or in front of your TV as long as possible. But churning out.
Yeah. I agree with you. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's kind of their MO or model, and who knows if that will be successful for them or there'll be a backlash. People like, screw this, I'm not going to keep doing this. Like, I don't watch enough of these shows for it to be worth it. I mean, who knows?
Mm.
Netflix seems like they have a good strong stranglehold on it, and the other ones are trying to play catch up. Um, we'll see. I think it would behoove them to, you know, make cheaper TV shows and give some of that to, you know, fund independent films just because people love those films. But I don't think that's where the business is headed. And maybe things will change eventually, but it's kind of a dying breed. Just even getting your film on Netflix if you're not a famous person is very, very hard. I mean, it
Yeah.
was haven't been able to get the golden age on there, but now I'm happy with Amazon Prime because I love Amazon. I'm a huge fan of them and use them all the time, so it works out well for me. But it's just it's not very friendly to independent filmmakers unless they're like famous or known. And I
Mm.
don't know. I feel like why I came to this town and why so many actors did and so many directors, producers, people in the film business, crew, etc., were these really seminal independent films. And then obviously like the 70s, like, but that was before a lot of our time. But like the 90s, like there was a big wave of independent film. And I think, you know, people came here wanting to be part of that movement, and then it slowed and moved away and then moved towards these streaming platforms with these TV shows, which to be honest with you, I don't have the time to watch them. Like I mean, when you binge something, it's like, oh, I get it, I'm really into it, I'm going to watch it. But it's like, it makes sense that people watch things on their own accord. But there's something about the 3 act structure of a film that strikes me 1,000 times deeper than any TV show. I
Mm.
mean, I still like, you know, Breaking Bad or something you really like, or whatever your favorite TV show is. I get it because I've watched those and like binged them to death and been like, oh my God, this is so great. But outside of those rare few, and they are rare in my opinion, there's something nice about getting that 1, 2, 3 ABC, you know, act one, act two, act three punch with the narrative. I think there's nothing like it. And it may just be that that's a dying breed and I'm just an old dog talking about, you know, something that's since moved on to these TV shows. But hopefully, you know, Netflix will, or someone will, you know, revive that. I think it all comes full circle eventually, just like rock music that's been dead. And I tried to do that with the Golden Age. Like the music in the Golden Age is like the Beatles, Bob Dylan, you
Mm.
know, that kind of era, John Lennon type of stuff, Harry Nilsson, like bringing back that old school rock with some soul singers. I grew up on a lot of R&B, Stevie Wonder and all that stuff. And so I tried to infuse that. And you know, I'm not saying like that's where music should go, but it was like, that's what I'm interested in. So that's what I'm going to sing about. And the music topic is analogous in the same context as Hollywood in terms of, you know, I don't know what the hell music's about these days or what people are singing about, but it seems like we've gotten so far from that, which has inspired us that I don't know, it feels like it's all going through the motions these days for me.
Well, yeah, I put it this way: if you feel like the entertainment side of movies and like television have been affected with the new wave of technology, let's just say with streaming, when you're streaming music, that has taken a dramatic turn, to say the least. Like, because to be on sort of a streaming platform, like here we go, to be on the why am I blanking on them? Come on, Spotify. There you go. To be on Spotify, like, yeah, the sort of length of a track of music, it's like goes down to around about 2 minutes, so it can be replayed again and again and again. So it's kind of like, okay, and like people could go, yeah, but if you go back far enough, music was about 2 minutes back in the day, but most of the sort of classic songs, it was much longer than
Right.
2 minutes, you know. Had to really get some.
Yeah, yeah.
So it is a very strange time, indeed.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and like in the music thing, it's like, yeah, 2.5 minute pop song was like the way or the arc, yeah, and like way back when, and now it's even less than that.
Mm.
Or who knows? I don't even know. I don't even think about that when I'm doing a song. I mean, most of the songs on the Golden Age are like 3 to 3.5 to 4.5 minutes, and it's like it's a solid orchestral rad pop song. Like here we go, and I have 2 8 minute songs on the album just because I wanted to like really push it. So
Mm.
it's like, you know, this whole idea of like we should conform to what's going on is it's so just so absurd on too many fronts. I think painters should paint what they want, and musicians should record what they want and filmmakers should make what they want. We should celebrate that uniqueness instead of trying to create some formula which they should be compared to. And I think it's reductive and silly, and I want no part of it. And that's why I'm in the golden age.
Yeah, no, because like this is the thing. One of the things which strike me, because especially with a film like The Golden Age, plus with the album itself, how did you find the sort of like finding the funding to do one is challenging enough? Finding the funding to do like an album on top of a feature film.
Yeah, and a book now too. Jesus Christ. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how it happened. I think when you jump into like what it is your destiny, like the universe kind of conspires around you to make it happen. I mean, I could give you the material answer. Like I was literally working like at 2 different bars. I was managing properties and renting out units, and I was filming throughout the week outside of all those times I weren't working. I did that for years. So I'm like almost like drop dead after it. Or maybe that's why I'm so tired now, because I was working so hard. So a lot of people, I made some money in commercials. I just did everything like I could do to fund it. And most people think it's crazy to put your own money into it. And I guess so, because they always say use someone else's money. But that always seems weird to me too, because now you're like asking somebody for a loan that they're probably not going to make their money back. I don't know. It's like, it's strange. So for me, it was like, I didn't mind putting my money into it because I wanted to have complete control of what I wanted to say and how it wanted to be said, regardless of one person saw it or millions and trillions of people saw it. It was irrelevant to me. I wanted to make sure that this was done right. I could care less if I never made another penny again, or it doesn't matter to me. It was like, I kind of view art differently in the context of like how most people do it. It's just, for me, it was more about, I know what I want to say. I want to do it the way I want to do it. And I don't really want to hear a lot of interference about it, because I think sometimes when you have so many cooks in the kitchen, or so many people, or the investor telling you about something, or, multiple producers and all that, I've just seen films kind of get watered down a little bit, or so anyways, it took a lot of strength. I was working literally like 6 days a week for like years and years, just hustling, working on the actor, the wardrobe, rehearsing the scene beforehand, the location, the food, the lights, the camera, the crew, the this, the that. And it was just on and on and on and on and on. This would just go on week to week to week to week, to the point where I'm like, I'm never gonna stop doing this. It felt like it was endless. It was like Groundhog Day, but I eventually knew it would end, and I'm glad it did, because it was so taxing.
My God.
But it was like an out of body experience. It was like when something captures you, just got. It's almost like if you gave me like millions and millions of dollars to make the Golden Age again, I couldn't do it, because it was almost like beyond any finances. People get racked over finances. Like, how did you make this? And how this? It's almost like when you're destined to make something, it just happens. Even you may have to work way harder than you thought, or you know what I mean? But like, it all kind of comes to fruition the way it's supposed to.
Yeah. Would you say it's like a possession in some regards?
For sure. I think it's more of like a possession always kind of makes me sound like something diabolical, but it's almost like divinely inspired, Right. It's almost like you're being used as a conduit to something much greater, to whatever, spiritual devotional context you're connected to. It's almost like you're being used as a puppet by your gurus, or by your teachers, or by your God, So it's more like, once you hone it, trying to, I don't know, vibrate on a context or a story that's a little bit beyond yourself, that incorporates devotional themes. Sometimes you're then a cog in the wheel of something much greater, that you think like look what I'm creating. I think that's the trap of the whole Golden Age. Like, look what I did. I wrote it. It's like, who cares? Like, I don't even really look at it like that. It's like more like I looked like I was a servant to something that was much greater than my ability to even comprehend, because I could never make that again and take on those many hats and make it to the extent that I could. It was just one of those experiences that just was part of my fate, that when you're divinely inspired, or talking about themes that are much bigger than yourself, that are in this related to the spiritual world or an otherworldly plane, the universe just comes to your aid in some ways that you can't really reflect, and I won't be able to understand it until maybe I leave this body someday. You know what I mean? It's like
Mm.
it's hard to really get the chasm and the depths of it all.
Yeah, no, like, phew, yeah, like the sort of the chasms and the depths. Like the whole thing is when you sort of the journey that like going, yes, I was working this many jobs, I was doing this, I was doing that. It's like, the toil, the very toil is just speechless because
Yeah,
one of the things I don't sometimes get when people like go, yeah, you shouldn't use your money, you should use other people's money, and sort of you're like, oh, wait, if you truly believe and have faith in what you're doing, like, then you should surely back it. And if that
yeah,
in the form of time, if that comes in the form of money, you should like, yeah, here I am. I'm putting my deposit down, like my bet on this, and away we go. Bet might be the wrong word to use, but you know what I mean. I have faith in
sure.
the project, and I don't understand when people like, oh, no, you shouldn't use your own money, or you shouldn't use this, you shouldn't use that.
It's wise not to use our money on some level because these things can be expensive or whatever, and I may not make my money back pound for pound, but who knows? But like, it was irrelevant to me. But I think this is why famous people go crazy, is because when they, if you don't take that credo and then you like sign up for some show you're not really crazy about or you think it's going to be great and ends up being crap, and then it's like that's what you're known for, and now you made a lot of money for something that's crap, and part of you now you're like 40 or 50 and you realize, oh my god, I got this house in the hills, um, I got this, whatever, like there's like, what happened, like why didn't I just buckle up and finance my own thing? Or sometimes there's people that are sitting on big pounds of money and they're still like, millions, and they're still not like taking out like 2 to 5 million to make some independent film. Like that's what I would do if they're in their shoes and say, well, I'm going to show them and do what I want to do or something. But the point is, I think there's a big temptation to like, you know, I don't know, it gets very skewed. I personally think this is why famous people go crazy, because they have a body of work more often than not that there's like a couple things they could really like, oh, that was so great, I really stand behind that. But then they've got like a slew of things that they're like embarrassed that anyone would ever see. And how could that not mess with them? Now they're rich and they got money, but it's like, is this what they really wanted to do? So I kind of see money and abundance like, that comes when it's according to our karma for it to come, and I trust that. So I don't really get too caught up in all that. And fame, it's like, who knows? I was kind of trying to satirize it all in this film because I think our whole society now is entrenched with thinking fame is going to bring them happiness, and I wanted to kind of have a little bit of a laugh at it in the golden age. But
Mm.
I think it's important to just like follow what you want to do, even if it sounds crazy to everyone else, including yourself. It's like, if that's what's part of your fate, like just go for it. Like who cares what anybody thinks, or who cares even what we think? Like, why not just be really, bold with what we love to do, even if everyone thinks we're crazy? I mean, all the great artists that I look up to throughout time, everyone thought they were nuts. So it's like, who cares? You know?
Mm. Who would you say like who would you say was one of the artists you look up to who was like, how can I say, misunderstood while they were around?
Oh God, there's so many musicians. We could get into a bunch of them: Scott Walker, Sisto Rodriguez, Harry Nilsson. But then there's like these filmmakers that are very obscure, and that could be a long conversation too. But even like painters, like guys like Van Gogh, just for instance, like there's so many like amazing, brilliant painters, for example, that like no one will ever know or see their work, or
Mm.
they are just a very select few, and they like died penniless, like busting away on like a great oeuvre and work of art and a body of work that no one will ever know. But I mean, his stuff wasn't even remotely known until he passed away. And there's a lot of people that I think go through and have these unique little careers that the masses don't know, but they really changed a lot of people's lives in a substantive way, but maybe not were known in the same way that some of the massive people were that didn't really change anyone's, you know what I mean? Or I don't know. So it's kind of like pick your poison. What do you want to do? So I kind of follow those people that just march to the beat of their own drum, like whether it's George Harrison or, even guys like Bob Dylan and Leonard, like it seems like they all kind of like wanted to sing and say or do what they wanted to do. And they knew there was going to be some blowback because it wasn't very apropos with the way people were doing, or living their lives. And I just think it's good to just march along to the beat of your own drum, especially in this day and age where everyone is doing whatever they want, whatever they have to do to become famous, that it's almost watering down the idea of being entertainment itself, because it almost seems like fabricated as an attempt to gain more likes and followers versus like these pound for pound artists that are really putting their neck on the line to be to put themselves out there and not knowing what the hell's going to happen. So I just trust the process with this whole creative thing. It's like you do your best and you try to get really deep within your soul of what needs to come out. And if the masses are meant to gravitate to it immediately or over time, it'll shake out the way it's supposed to. The main thing is that, you're trying to change the zeitgeist in like a holistic and hopefully spiritual or transformational way than a lot of how we've been programmed to view media,
Mm. Yeah, like one of the interesting things about like how entertainment and basically how people are becoming famous these days, like there used to be back in the day, you had to go to an agent and the agent would sort of vet you, sort of like, okay, you're ready or you're not ready, and like they either say no, it ain't gonna happen, send you off on your way, and they'll gatekeeper you out, or they would like go, okay, come refine you, do this, tweak you, and then put you out into the world. Now, where there is no quote unquote gatekeepers out there and everyone like doing the whole free for all, it is rather interesting to see where, okay, the quote unquote the almighty algorithm which lives out there is kind of like, how can I, like pruning and sort of sharing, like manipulating people to be a certain way to sort of be able to hit those marks or to get those fame like notes. So you don't get anyone as kind of edgy as they used to be, or you don't get anyone sort of like, more out there as they used to be. It kind of, sometimes it feels like there is a vanilla sort of beige, which is coming out with many of the sort of today's entertainers and actors and like artists, rather than exciting and daring, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, I agree, and I think, and I sympathize with them because they're living in a day and age now where you say the wrong word, you say the wrong thing, and you get canceled. So like all these people, I think I'm fearful of even speaking up. Whereas so yeah, I don't really know. I don't really know what to make of it. It's also that there's no gatekeepers anymore. Everyone's doing what they want to do, and there's so many people now trying to be famous or doing their own thing with social media. But it's almost like we're all entertaining ourselves to death because there's not like much of a lot of substance out there. So I think that's kind of why I'm looking to retreat for a few years and maybe just work on some art and I don't know, recalibrate a little bit, just because I'm not really feeling very attuned to what's happening now, whether it's in media or social media or entertainment or Hollywood. I think it's kind of a big crock. And that's why I made the Golden Age. I was trying to satirize it all. I thought, these plights of musicians getting famous and going to their drug phase and all that. I wasn't trying to make light of it because I know we're all struggling, but it was like, we've seen these stories be told so many times. At least I wanted to do it more interestingly. And it was kind of my swan song, and we'll see what happens next. But I feel like I'm able to see things that I weren't able to see prior to making this film.
Yeah.
Or see things in a more holistic context. And I think was maybe the best thing that helped me outside of healing from some of the wounds that I explored in the film.
Like, because like you think, look at it this way, the way I see it with yourself, and like this is the thing. We've only been speaking now like for a brief amount of time. It comes down to this: you have been on a 15-year journey where like you've basically put things down, you've like purged yourself of many a like thing, many a thing over the course of time, and like you've like looked and examined at sort of fame in many respects, and you're looking at it from an outsider's point of view, like out of the system which you were like quite clearly entrenched in. So it's one of those things where you go, okay, you've got this perspective which not many people will have,
Mm,
from like your sort of industry? Any like because they're so in the game, they're just like I'm
sure.
in the game, and now it's like a case of yeah, you see it, and there's most probably one or two things you might not like about what you see, what goes on with the industry, or you can see it's not going the way you expect it to with regards to growth and making things happen for like hey, the small creator trying to like make it in the world today. It's tricky to say the least.
Yeah.
So I can understand
Yeah.
you to withdraw.
Yeah, I think it's just giving me a broader perspective. Like I champion all those people that are working in TV shows and film, and maybe that'll be something I jump back into too. But I think I don't feel this desperation to be part of something that I just don't believe in anymore. And I think there's a lot of people that are starting to open up their eyes to not just Hollywood or media, but just everything. Everything that we're seeing. Sometimes, the news, whatever. It's like there's a lot of how real is this? What are we being sold or fed? Do we
Mm,
believe in this? Is this feeding us? Is vibrationally, is this a match of where we're looking to head? So if you're looking for something that's interesting and kind of off the cuff, and if you've been through any wounds with your parents or alcoholism or gone through any kind of trauma of sorts, I think the golden age will really strike a chord with anyone who hears it. It's healing a lot of people that have survived, and I think if for those on the devotional path or yogic path and trying to figure out a way to go deeper in their own life, I think the golden age takes on some themes that we don't normally see in cinema. So I um, I humbly stand behind it.
mm. Like one last question before we go.
Sure, sure.
Now, if you could like record an album with one artist, who would that one artist be?
Oh Jesus, they're all passed away. um, um,
We'll bring
one
it back.
art, one artist that's living. Um,
That's
oh, we can bring them back if they can. It can be dead or alive.
dead, alive, yeah.
Oh shit. I would. God, that's a tough one, man. I don't even know. I'd probably say like it'd probably be a tie between three people: George Harrison,
Um,
Lennon, and Harry Nilsson. I don't know, and they all knew each other, so pick one out of the hat. I really, I really like those guys. They kind of like are a nice blend of singer songwriters that I really respond to.
mm.
Yeah,
But who would be the ultimate choice, Justin? Who would be
I
your-
don't know. Probably, I'd like to talk to George Harrison. I think probably him. I'll go with him.
I'm curious, what would be the question you would ask him?
I don't know. We had a similar devotional path about, following the same gurus from the East.
Mhm.
So I would probably just pick his brains about the stories that he had, about some of those teachers and what drew him to it, and just talk shop with him about devotional matters, if anything.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Like that. Can you tell the lovely people out there how they can get hold of you, how they can find you out in the big wide web?
Sure, sure. Amazon Prime in every country. You can watch The Golden Age by Justin Connor, Connor. You can listen to the album on the album Spotify and all streaming platforms. And the title of the album is the soundtrack album is Justin Connor, The Golden Age. And you
Mm.
can always go to my website, justinconnor.com, for more information and social. But I'm on Facebook, Instagram. I am Justin Connor. Um, and just keep in touch with me. Going to keep pounding the pavement, pounding the soapbox, and the book is going to be coming out this fall. So if you enjoy the film, you might really enjoy the book. There's going to be an audio version as well as a hardbound and a softbound being printed on Amazon as well. So that'll be later this year. But I stand behind that too. That one we didn't get into that much in this episode, but that one's gets me even more honest than the film does, as books sometimes do. So that's
Mm.
called a day in the lives, and that'll be coming out probably around November.
Okay. Excellent. I most probably will get you back when you get the book out there.
Sounds good.
Yes.
That'll be great.
Outstanding. I'd like to say thank you to you today, Justin, for coming on to the show. Yeah, you've been great, to say the least.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate having me.
No, no, Pleasure's all mine. The pleasure's all mine. I'd like to say thank you to you, my friends, my life warriors out there, for sticking with us, watching the show up until this point. Please stay safe, stay well, be awesome, be excellent, be fantastic, be all the positive bees you can be in this world, and then some. Have a great day, guys. Peace. And we are out.